Welcome to the Belfield show. We're now talking about empires, how they rise, how they fall, how they crush, how they grow, who started them, why, when, where, who, what, everything. You know what I'm saying? Welcome to the show. Our last episode, we were talking about there's a giant problem with massive groups of people without modern transportation. These people, they're just your problem. Okay? At the dawn came once. See, at the dawn, they came once and they showed up. And once they showed up, they must stay for a time. See, the travel is so long and is so hard between the cities. It takes weeks to travel from city to city. The decision to move must be permanent. It's a permanent decision. We're not going to Jerusalem for a day. We're going there for a couple of years. It takes 2 months to get there. Time and time again, with time-lapse mapping alone, I was able to devise that the crusades never really took anything over. See, what you see are small groups go out to places in the east, then return home. So now my dilemma was different, but I didn't know yet. But I didn't know how yet. See, it took me a month to check the region after the crusade had gone. See, some they go with it. Sometimes they go where there's nothing on the map. And years later, a society springs up. So they're making false worshipers in their name. Right? No, the places on these men go because they're the most beautiful places of spirituality. The cities of Alexandria, cathedrals, and drastic change in all that we know. After the Crusades, things don't get worse, they get better. See, I was shocked to see this. I thought it was a war, then another war. Are things better because they just wrote them down that way? Not really. It's not really in the writing. See, I'm finding this clear evidence of growth, not destruction. What I expected to find was, a dead-end war. But time and time again, I am confronted with something unbelievable. The stepping stones to our modern-day society. This breakthrough made me search out the root cause of war in the first place. War. War is a concept that most are familiar with. However, let me change your perspective. Through my research, I have found that territorial disputes predate history itself, which means there are fights and battles that took place before we could read or write as a species. There have been many cultures that have been wiped out by time, nature, and by one another. The reasons to fight are obvious: for shelter, for respect. Nature isn't the same all the way around the earth, so some parts are harsher than others, and people grow and spread wildly. It is inevitable that people will eventually outgrow a natural food source. It's known in Africa to have hungry seasons where there's no food and travel is impossible. During this time, the old and young usually die a lot. When your land is dried up, there's nothing you can do. So the reason for conflict is always there. But we as humans are just as the animals at this point. So much is more powerful than us that we don't even see each other as allies yet. Everything is an enemy. When your development is at this level, everything is an enemy when your development is at this level. So I decided to cut out the fighting into two groups: documented and undocumented. During the transition, we have some record of the wars that happened just before war documentation. However, there is little evidence on how they began or how long they lasted. All we know is that once a documented war takes place, the peace thereafter is long-lasting. Undocumented war. An undocumented war can start with as little as one individual. A person gets killed and there's much to answer for. Most tribes had only suspicion to guide them. And if another tribe was found to be at fault, then there would be revenge. Then retaliation of the revenge was unaccepted. Then small groups fighting leads to bigger groups fighting, and then things can snowball into we always get into a fighting situation. And you get into self-perpetual conflict. So, documented war. A war is called upon by committee. Sanctioned by presidential order or by the leader. Which means the leader of the country is the ultimate decider on if war should be enacted. The entire state, though, is involved. There is notice sent to all citizens involved. Congress is getting ready to conflict with another, which means the political teams will come together and negotiate. When documented war happens, there is no real fighting for months. There's no real battling or fighting for months, maybe even years. Sometimes not even at all. See, a fight like this is more for the people, right? Rather than just out fighting. It's more to keep peace rather than to start fighting. Wars today are about cohesion. It's neighboring governments talking to one another about dealing with their people. Saying, fix these issues or we'll come and fix it for you. Then charge you. That's a war today. The problem is too many of you people are coming over to my country in the wrong manner. See, they're escaping your justice system. Then putting a drain on my system. Then bring crime, and then they take the jobs, and then their ways and the way that they look are bad, you see? And they're poorly educated and scared, and they scare my people. And if thousands of people do this without going through the proper channels because your government is broken, this puts a strain on everybody. So our forefathers found how to protect our way of life by giving it to those who need it most. So if the Crusades brought aid to these regions, why are they in such disarray?